you realize that mainstream media has sold you a box of rocks. It's time to tune into the Kate Daly Show, America's newest addiction. The show starts now.
You know, my mother used to say a long time ago, whenever there would be any really catastrophe that was in the movies or on the air, she would say, always look for the helpers. There will always be helpers, you know, even just on the sidelines. That's why I think that if news programs could make a conscious effort of showing rescue teams, of showing medical people, anybody who is coming into a place where there's a tragedy, to be sure that they include that. Because if you look for the helpers, you'll know that there's hope.
I love that clip. Yeah, that was good old Mr. Rogers. Welcome to the Friday show. Got a lot happening today. Let me just tell you. 3 guests on deck today. I've got Dinesh D'Souza coming on, talking about Vindicating Trump, his new movie. Director Christopher Burgard, who he and Nick Searcy did the movie War on Truth. And he'll be coming on to talk about a little bit of his journey in Hollywood, how crazy it's been because of some of the projects he's been picking, like Border and War on Truth. And so a lot going on. And then we'll round up today's show with Jim Lee talking about geoengineering. And I think the future of what we have to kind of realize that what's at our doorstep. In other words, I can't talk today, but what's at our doorstep. And let me tell you, I think there's so much there. As far as there was a post I put up on the Facebook page, Kate Daly Show Facebook page, and it was about, if you don't think it can happen to you, what just happened in those 6 states and those states that were very surprised, that do not get this kind of action, it can happen. And so this should be that wake up moment for all of us where we go, okay, this can 100% happen. I want you to call in today about some of the things I'm going to be talking about, but I want to explain something first. And I didn't have time yesterday to go into this. There just wasn't enough time. And I wanted to hear from our guest Jeff Dornick. And he was great. I like Jeff. And so it was a lot of fun. I wish we would have had like one more segment so we could have really gotten into a discussion about things, but especially about the strike. And I wanted to explain something to you that I think is really important. And then I want to go to some of the things happening around Hurricane Helene. The strike now is suspended until January 15th, right before the transition of the presidency. Now, there's a lot of speculation about the fact that this is because they want to lay this on Trump's doorstep, right? As Trump gets in, then he has to deal with these shortages. They don't want Kamala to feel the pushback and the hatred from average, everyday Americans who hate her already. But now we find how degenerate she really is in giving that little pittance of $750 to the Hurricane Helene survivors. And there's only going to be some that get that, by the way. It's a slap in the face is what that is. And so I want to explain this really fast because I think this is good information to know. There was a strike on the West, not a strike, I'm sorry. Let me start over. There was, and then Dinesh is coming on. There was a contract the end of a contract on the West Coast, the Pacific Maritime, the longshoremen on the West Coast. And that ended in 2022. The workers didn't strike. They wanted more pay, but they didn't strike. And for 13 months after 2022, 13 months, they negotiated back and forth about what that price would be. Now, the average wage of a union worker in 2023 on the increase when they fought for their wages, the average wage was about 6.6%. Okay, that's what they were getting for people across the board when they were in negotiations. So they kind of figured this would go around the same, 6.6. And it went on for 13 solid months on the West Coast. Okay. And if you look this up, it'll say this. The Biden administration did step in to help the International Longshore and Warehouse Union on the West Coast, right? The Pacific Maritime Association, PMA, resolve their 29 West Coast port labor negotiations in 2023 after their contract expired in July of 2022. So halfway through 2022, and then it went on for 13 months. Okay, they thought maybe 6.6% was the average. They thought that's what they were going to, that's what they thought they were going to do, because that was the average across the board for 2023. Okay, and they didn't get that. They actually got a 32% increase. It's pretty big when the Biden administration helped to do that, right? The Biden administration walks in and they get not only a 32% increase, I bet they were celebrating that. They got a COVID bonus for getting through the COVID years. Okay. And then they also got retroactive pay back to July of 2022. That's a hell of a deal. That Biden administration, working hard for the unions. Do you think that was by accident? Because I don't. I don't know how anyone could walk away and say that was by accident. You're going to get them to agree to a 32% increase? How? How are you going to do that? It makes zero sense. And now you know why the October 1st contract 6 years later, this is where the East Coast falls, and they wanted to strike. Now, the interesting thing about it is, on the West Coast, when they wanted these wages higher, and they thought they were probably going to get a 6.6% increase, they didn't strike. Why did these guys strike the very night that their contract ended? Because usually they just negotiate the bigger wage. Does anybody else find that a little weird? I do. And they immediately strike. Where's all the negotiating going on? 13 months is a long negotiation on the West Coast. And so they go to strike, okay? And so you can bet your bottom dollar that this was manipulated and choreographed. And I'll also go as far as to say, just wait until the first half of next year, because I think they're going to strike. I think this thing was set up, and the West Coast got that wage kicked up so high to provoke the East Coast. And oh my gosh, 32%. Are you kidding me? We're going to demand more money. We're going to demand more money now. We want that same increase. And I think it's really pathetic. And I think that this is an easy one to see through. This is simple, easy. Look at that. Come on. The Biden administration steps in and all of a sudden it's jacked up to 32%. Are you kidding me? Come on. There's something way more overblown about that. And they wanted to provoke, right? They wanted to provoke. So, it figures, right near election time. So they're putting it off so that whatever happens, right, through the election, then that administration has to deal with it. All right. Now, back to the really important stuff, because this is more important, even though that affects us economy-wise, all of us, with shortages and everything else. I'm just saying you might want to bone up on some supplies, okay? Because I don't think it's going to get negotiated. I think they're going to strike in January. Here is what's happening on the ground in Hurricane Helene, which, by the way, is not talked about at all. Drudge has, this is the headline on Drudge. Boom, job growth surges with Biden and Kamala high-fiving each other. Can't make that up, okay? Also, CNN, jobs report. Fox, Elon Musk's power. I kid you not. Now, let's go to the really actual important things that the media will not cover because they're scumbaggery. Here we go. This is Hurricane Helene, people helping people.
I can tell you that this is probably the strongest community I've ever lived in. I mean, these people would literally die for me, I think.
They thawed it out, so we got to cook it. Barbecue chicken coming up.
And what you'll find out here is that these people are of these mountains. They're not leaving. And so to have this here, this is salvation.
At the Nesbitt Chapel,
Eat. You want some chili?
hope was created by people like Bethany Phillips, Sam Rodas, and her husband.
We just kind of started coming together, and as people were coming through, it was, well, what can we do? And neighbors just started bringing in food. We had to cook it. We just became a hot spot out of not even meaning to.
Many people sharing the same story as Sam's.
We lost our RV that we're living in. We lost our 2 vehicles and our motorcycle. And I mean, we lost everything. My husband and I and our dog got out, and that's about it. Some of the locals that are here with us today with a little boat, and they strung up a canoe with a pulley line, and they rescued us.
Food, water, gas, and internet, all available here. Some leave the area to look for lost loved ones, and others search for medicine for those in need.
They're still out working on getting the roads ready so that we can get, people out of here.
Those in Fairview hope they can find comfort in what they've gained after losing so much together.
To have this means that we can rebuild this community, and it'll probably be way stronger. And honestly, we're probably not going to leave.
Wow. Huge. That's the news right there. That's the news. Job report? Are you kidding me? Government's not even supposed to be this entrenched and involved in the jobs across America. All they're supposed to do, if they were honest, was take regulation back and let the people do what the people do. In Hurricane Helene, the people are doing what the people are doing, and government is not around. And if I were you, the best advice I could give to you, and I'm following my own advice too, is to have that backpack ready. Have a backpack ready, things to go, cash in small denominations. Have supplies, have some solar things, have some medicine, have some things that you can help other people with. But be ready, because if it can happen there, it can happen anywhere, any obscure place in America, and they've got the technology to do that. And in the last half of the show, we're going to be talking about that. They do have the technology. They can do it. Believe them when they tell you who they are, right? Be right back. I'll take comments in the next section, and then Dinesh is coming on. Be right back. Kate Daly Show, KateDalyRadio.com.
Thanks for listening to The Kate Daly Show. All opinions expressed by the program participants on The Kate Daly Show are solely their own